Hey guys, Enigmatic Mr. L here. Today I'm going to be trying to rank the characters in the game Fire Emblem The Blazing Blade, but unlike traditionally, the past couple videos I've done where I have a tier list formatting, I can, talk about the characters individually for a while, their strengths, their weaknesses, and I can change my mind later and be like, oh, this character's a little too high. Actually, this character's a little too low. It's something a little bit different. It's a fine character sorter. So you just compare characters, one you compare two characters at any given time. X better than Y, X better than A better than B, and so on and so forth, so you get a standardized list at the end. So, if you make a mistake at one point, you say X is better than Y, and then some multiple choices later, like, wait, should I really have done that? I can, throw your whole tier list off. I think it's entertaining in a way. Like, it's debatable if this is more accurate if you're comparing them, one character at a time, or one comparison at a time for this whole thing, but I also think there's merit in just the traditional tier list format. Like I said, you go into more in-depth about each character, and you can look at the whole picture. So, could end up making this list and I don't really agree with the results, but either way, it should be fun. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. One last thing I should mention is my knowledge with the Blazing Blade is a little bit limited. I haven't played Hector hard mode yet. I got the physical cartridge of it, and so you have to play through Eliwood normal mode first, and then you have to play through Hector normal mode first after that. And once I beat Hector normal mode, I thought I completed it, saw it all the way to the end credits, and then I just deleted my file. Apparently it didn't quite register. I had to play Hector normal mode a second time, and then even after that, I was like, I should probably play Eliwood hard mode before I try Hector hard mode. So I played Blazing Blade 4 times, once in Eliwood normal, twice in Hector normal, and once in Eliwood hard. Still haven't gotten Hector hard mode yet, so I know I'll just kind of be kind of a cross between Eliwood hard mode, where you don't gain as much EXP when you defeat enemies, and Hector normal mode, which includes additional characters, additional chapters. All right, so without further ado, let's just dive right in. Okay, so we got Sonya and Limistella, neither one playable. I'm just going to tie them. I'm just going to tie all non-playable characters, and if there's ever a choice between a playable character and a non-playable one, the playable one is automatically going to win. So we got 3 NPC comparisons in a row. Okay, here's one. Farina, Karla. Well, Karla's one of the worst units in the game. Farina, is a flyer. Yeah, she takes your money, but she at least contribute more. Renault or Athos, both two late game joining characters, but I think Athos contributes a lot more. Nino or Jaffar. Jaffar, he has decent strength. He can unlock, chests. And Nino, if you can train her up, that's more your thing, but that's not very, efficient. I don't think the end result is worth it. So I'm just going to go with Jaffar. Louise or Harken. Harken is one of the strongest units you can get. Very good once you have them. Availability is a little shaky, but, so is Louise, and I think Harken contributes more, so we'll go with Harken. Geitz or Pent. Pent's one of my favorite characters in the game. Yeah, he joins late, but I think he makes up for it. Whereas Geitz, it's like, yeah, he's good when you have him, but you also have to train up, Eliwood, Hector, and Lynn to an amount average like 17 levels, which can be very difficult to do when you have the harder difficulties. Got Isadora or Heath. I've never actually used Heath. I've heard he gets hard mode bonuses, and you can train him up. Isadora is fine. I think we go Heath a little bit better just because, flying utility. I think he has more long-term viability. I could be wrong in this. Like I've said in a few other videos, I'm not an expert on Fire Emblem, so I'm going to go with Heath. Yeah, Legault or Ninian. Ninian's a dancer, very useful, even without those extra dances. The increased crit, increased dodginess, increased defense. Just being able to refresh for any unit of your choice, very nice. Thief utility, it's useful, but not super useful. Unless you already have Matthew, which is you only have one dancer. I'm going to be counting Ninian and Nils as one character. When we get Nils, I'm going to tie them. Bartre or Fiora, we said earlier, flying utility, very good. Again, I've never actually used Fiora because so far every time I played, I've gone through the trouble of using Lynn mode, and I train Farina up a lot. And yeah, I know you can use more than one flyer. There's no rule against it, especially if it's good class. I just for variety's sake, just be fun. I really don't bother with Fiora, but I think she can be really good, especially at Carter modes. Maybe especially when you didn't play Lin mode, you didn't train up Farina. She's just good for rescue dropping. Whereas Geitz, he's just kind of, not Geitz, Dart. He's just kind of there. Also requires huge investment with the Ocean Seal, which is worth like 20,000 gold. But even without that, he's just kind of mediocre, if memory serves. Like, he's okay-ish. With, Priscilla, Raven, two very good units. Priscilla does have a mount, and I think early game healing, she joins earlier, more movement. Healing is very nice. I'm going to go with Priscilla. The Raven is very good at combat. Rebecca or Oswin, both join on the same chapter. Well, if you're playing Hector mode, that is. Oswin is very useful, especially in the early game. You can take so many hits. Rebecca has the stereotypical problems of an archer, which is, can't attack at one range. I'm going to go with Oswin. Lucius or Wallace. Lucius, he might be frail, probably frailer than Wallace, but, he can attack at 1-2 range. So, if he misses, it's fine. He doesn't risk, getting hit. Or he can, to kill an enemy, or he can just provide chip damage. Joins earlier, can heal, promote, so I'm going to go with Lucius here. Matthew or Nils, this was similar to Ninian versus Legault. Same thing here. Being able to refresh for any unit, Thief utility. Thief utility is nice, but I'll go with the Dancer here. Urk or Rath. Urk joins a few chapters earlier, and just having a mage is good. Attack on enemy res, can, promote, do healing. Generally pretty good. It's pretty alright. I guess Rath, he does have advantage. He has a mount. I think he can use the Brave Bow at base, but just early game availability, gets a lot of points for that. Also, I guess healing's nice, but even without that, I think I'd give it to Urk. Will or Dorcas, neither of them are that good in my opinion. I think Dorcas, he joins earlier, especially if you click skip Lin mode. Even if you play Lin mode, it's like you're not gonna use your resources, on leveling him up. You might do occasional chip dams. I guess you get points for that. But Dorcas is with you from Hector or Eliwood mode for more chapters. You can still attack at range with a hand axe, and like Will, when he first joins you with Lin and the Christmas Cavaliers, he might attack at Pegasus, 9 or 2 here, and that's it. Dorcas will contribute for more chapters, even though neither of them, I think, have very good, much long-term utility. Pent or Farina. Both very good units, especially if you play Lin mode. I think overall, find Farina, she's consistently doubling. She has a low con, but she has good speed growth. Very good candidate for the Angelic Robe and Energy Ring, or Energy Drop you get in Lin mode. Plus, Flying Utility, just even without Lin mode, she can be useful for, rescue dropping, that sort of thing. But if you especially play Lin mode, I think she's one of the best characters you can have. So I'm going to give it to Farina. Lin or Sane. Lin, just not a very good lord. She has good speed and skill, but strength and defense will be a lot to be lacking. If she doubles and she crits both times, it's 0 times 6. So 0 times 3 and then 0 times 3 again. That's still 0 versus Sane, especially play Lin mode. It's more worth your time to train him up over Lin. Just, higher movement, access to 1-2 range, can promote earlier. I'm going to give it to Sane. Zephiel or Eliwood? Well, Eliwood's playable. Bartre or Karel? Bartre is available for, he's gets points, for availability, but Karel, I think, is significantly better if you get him. He does come with the opportunity cost. You get Karel, you don't get Harken, but even if you count that against him, I still think I'd rate him higher over Bartre, which is, he'll do a little bit when you have him. You don't have many, other options before you have choice and who to deploy, but I think even with Karel's less availability and his opportunity cost, getting him instead of Harken with Karel. Marcus or Merlinus, does Merlinus even count as a playable unit? I'm probably going to put him above every other NPC, but probably kind of at the bottom of this, plus Marcus is the best character in the game. Sonya or Nurgle, neither of you are playable. Linus or Minna, neither of you are playable. Vargas or Lloyd, Lloyd. Lloyd's nice. Keep it up. Okay, Athos or Farina. Athos is definitely better when you have him compared to, all of Farina's uses when you have her. She does come with that opportunity cost like 20,000 gold, but she has like plenty of more availability. Flying, it's useful. I think her stats are amazing, but they're pretty good. She's good, like investment unit. When she joins, I think you can get a promotional item from the village, and then your same joining chapter. I can't think of it off. And Elysian Whip, is that what it's called? Yeah. Overall, I think she will contribute more in Athos. Athos will contribute a lot in that one battle, but contributing moderately over, a few number of chapters or a few meat amount is better than contributing a lot in one chapter, in my opinion. But contributing a lot in one chapter is better than not contributing at all in like 3 chapters? Yeah, with Athos. Same thing, Renault. I think he's a little bit underrated. Not by much. He still joins late. He's not fantastic. A lot of people point to his low magic, but look at some of your other healers, when they get promoted, he has about the same magic as them. You got I think he's got A rank in stabs. He can do some things. You can bring him to end game just fine. He's amazing, but he'll contribute. Versus Karla, which is, even if you ignore the fact that she's a huge investment cost, you have to train up Bartre to level 5 warrior. By the time she joins, it's she barely does anything. Jaffar or Vaida, 2 very good late game units. Jaffar has a little bit more availability to her. He joins in that guidance chapter after Battle Before Dawn, and he can contribute for most of the Battle of Cog Destiny, or Vaida just joins at the very end. Vaida does fly, but I think Jaffar's 2 chapter utility, plus the fact he can unlock doors, unlock chests. I'm going to give it to Jaffar. But Vaida's still useful when you have her as opposed to Nino, which is, you can train her up, but by the time she gets to the point where she's, caught up to the rest of your team, the game's pretty much over. It's not even worth that huge investment, so I'm going to give it to Vaida. Pent or Harken, both very good late game joining units. I think I'm going to give it to Pent just because, in addition to joining a few chapters earlier, Pent's really good. In addition to just his offense capabilities, just with magic, he's got A in staves, so he's good. User of the Berserk staff, good user of rescue, good user of warp. So I'm going to give it to Pent. Geitz or Harken, again, both good when you have them. Geitz does join earlier, I believe, but he's not nearly as good as Harken. Plus, like I said with Geitz, it's debatable. Someone say it's not fair to count that against him. You have to train up your lords, but yeah, for the sake of this comparison, I'm going to be that's one of the things I'll be factoring in. So I'm going to give it to Harken. Geitz or Louise. Louise, has the problems with a sniper, but she has a support with Pent, makes them both better units. And I'm gonna give it to Geitz. Heath or Harken, or not Harken, Hawkeye. And Hawkeye is really good when you have him. I think he joins very shortly after you get Heath, so there's not much of a availability is an issue. And Hawkeye's just, Heath needs some investment. You have to train him up. Hawkeye is just awesome from the get-go, and once he joins, it's very useful just kind of deploy him pretty much every chapter. He's got hand axes, 1-2 range. He's got killer axe plus the berserker passive crit bonus. So I'm gonna give it to Hawkeye. Fiora, not is it Fiora? Yeah, I get her name mixed up with Flora from Fire Emblem Fates. So Fiora, not Flora. Ninian, flying is good, but you mean dancer. I think that's better. Yeah, Thief Utility's good, but I'm gonna give it to Fiora. Darch, kind of there. Thief Tilly, it's something. Priscilla versus Canas. I mean, Canas is a really good unit. He joins, I think, very close to promotion, and once he does promote, that'll help some of his doubling issues. Then I had access to stabs, pretty solid, base stats, 1-2 range. Because when he promotes, he'll have access to healing as well. But Priscilla is with you for not actually too much longer. I think it's just a couple of chapters. But in addition to that, having a mount and having just one dedicated healer is really nice. So I'm going to give it to Priscilla. Canas or Raven? This is a bit of a tricky one because Raven is very good at combat. His main issue is he doesn't have 1-2 range until he promotes and use a hand axe. Canas does have that 1-2 range, and then when he promotes, he gets something else. He gets healing. I do think Raven is still slightly better at combat overall. I think if memory serves, but like they say, like Raven, he's missing 1-2 range. He promotes, he gets that. Canas has 1-2 range, and when he promotes, he gets healing on top of that. So, and availability is like about the same. Raven joins like midway through the chapter before Canas joins. Canas joins pretty early, so yeah, I'm gonna give it to Canas. Oswin or Guy, I believe that's how you pronounce it. I thought it was Guy at first, but I've heard it's pronounced Guy. So, what do I know? Oswin is very useful for the first few chapters, just being able to absorb hits. Guy, it's like that to an extent. I mean, he's useful when you have him, just because he has the killing edge. He's got good base speed, but I mean, long term, I guess you could say you don't really need either one of these. Like Cavalier, once you start valuing movement, Cavaliers join you, they get trained up some. Oswin might not be as useful, but I feel like it's more advantageous to have Oswin, both in their like short term contributions, because Oswin joins. It's like just one chapter earlier, but that's still something. And then even you'll find that Guy stops being useful sooner than Oswin. Oswin's like one level away from promotion. When he promotes, you can still keep using him for a good while. Guy's main selling fact is he doubles, but then once your units start leveling up speed, once you start getting more units, it's more common. He doesn't stand out as much, and his strength, though, if memory serves, leaves a lot to be desired. So I'm going to give it to Oswin. Okay, Rebecca or Guy, but I mean, like Guy, it still does something when you have him. That killing edge doesn't have the arch problems. I'm going to give it to Guy. Lucius or Lowen, I don't like Lowen much. I think he's a good unit. Early joining, Cavalier, 1-2 range. I probably like Lucius more, but I think of it like him compared to the Christmas Cavaliers, which it's not always a fair comparison compared to someone else. So, like, especially when we're not comparing them. If they're all three of them are good units, even if he's the worst of the three, it's still something. But there's something about makes characters fun to use. It's like, saying he, specializes in attack, that's good. Kent specializes in speed, that's good. He went double. And Lowen is like defensive. Like, I think he's bases and growth more line with like HP and defense, and that's just. I mean, defense is probably like the third most important stat, but still. That was more tangent. I just don't like Lowen, but he's still good. He joins earlier than Lucius in like the main story, beyond just Lin mode. Mount 1-2 range, not as squishy as Lucius. I'm gonna give it to Lowen. Or Nils, dancing is very useful. Being able to fresh for any one of your units, so give it to Nils. Or Matthew. It's a little tricky one. I don't know how to rate Thief utility. Like, how good is it really? Because, Matthew can steal or unlock, some very useful items for these other characters. But, without the other characters, it's like, well, where are your guiding ring, your Knight's Crest going to be going towards? Matthew does join earlier than Urk in the main story, but I mean, there's not much for him to do. I think. Could be wrong. I'm gonna give it to Urk for now. It's close. We'll give him more than Rath, though. I mean, Rath, having a horse is nice. Even his brave bow nice. Still has the problems of like a bow knight, but give it to Matthew. Dorcas or Priscilla, or not Priscilla, Serra. Serra, she's basically just, a means to an end, like once you get Priscilla. And you can keep using Serra if you want. I've done it before when I playthroughs, and it's fine. It's, an option you can do if you want to mix up your jam to add a little variety. And not having a mount is that's a big difference in Priscilla. But yeah, Dorcas does contribute somewhat, but we don't have many options. But I feel like I'd rather have Serra just because Dorcas terrible speed, terrible accuracy, leaves a lot to be desired. Go with Serra. Sane or Farina. I've said this before. It's kind of talked about Farina versus Kent. Both very good. I think Farina is slightly better with she makes better use of the angelic robe, energy ring. Can become very good at combat. Okay, Sane versus Kent. I know technically there are some differences between them. It's like Sane. I think he's got less skill but higher strength. Kent has better speed. I think skill is. I think Sane is something else. I don't remember offhand. I think according to the efficiency, Sane is better because he's on average he's more likely to be doubling thresholds and his higher strength growth allow him to kill 1 round or 2 round enemies that Kent won't on average. But the difference is so minor. I'm just gonna go ahead and tie them just because if I don't, I'll constantly have to compare characters to Sane and then Kent, or Kent then Sane. And yeah, if I had to pick, I would actually prefer Kent just because I'd rather be strength screwed than speed screwed, and on average, Sane will meet the thresholds to double because I think FE7's enemies are notoriously relatively slow at weighing themselves down. But yeah, I'd rather double with weaker damage than just 1 strong hit. So I'm going to tie them anyway. Just if I had to pick, I guess it would marginally go to Kent, but it's so close that I'm comfortable tying them. Eliwood or Hector. Yeah, Eliwood's stats. I mean, you look at bases, they seem fine. Look at gross, they're overall around. They look all right. But he doesn't really specialize in anything. His bases, they really leave a lot to be desired. And then more so than that, just being locked to swords. So you're only stuck at 1 range versus Hector. Stats more specialized in, attack and defense. And he also has access to hand axes, give him 1-2 range. I'm going to give it to Hector. Marcus or Karel. Marcus is probably one of the best units in Blazing Blade. Just, joins very early on. Good weapon ranks, very solid base stats. Gross is somewhat mediocre, but I mean, all right, all things considered. Yeah, even without Karel's opportunity cost joining late, yeah, gotta give some to Marcus. Merlinus is barely playable. Gonna give it to Karel. Same. Neither of you are playable. You're playable. You're playable. You're playable. You're terrible, but you're playable. Pent versus Jaffar. Yeah, Pent joins earlier and is just amazing when you have him. I mean, Jaffar's still good when you have him. I don't think he contributes as much as Pent to having A rank staves, but A rank staves, few chapters better availability. Yeah, both these are good at combat. I think Harken's a little better and joins a little bit earlier, so I'll give it to Harken. Geitz or Jaffar. Yeah, Geitz does join earlier, memory serves, but again, like I said, Geitz comes with the opportunity cost of training up your 3 lords to level 17 on average, which is difficult just because of, on hard mode, getting the XP comes much slower, but also Eliwood and Lyn, neither of them are that great. So for that reason, I'm going to give it to Jaffar. Same reason there, Jaffar and Vaida, pretty similar. Is better than Nino, though. Nino, she joins late, very lacking base stats for that point in the game. Nothing against units with low base stats and high gross, but when you join that late in the game, it's I know according to most efficiency runs, it's bases are more important than gross, and even just a casual player, it's I feel like they kind of form an X if you look at them across the line graph. It's how you see how a bunch of bases matters go in the game starts like here and just keep going along the game that goes up, whereas growths are, the other way around. They start, important for your growth units and they just go gradually down. I don't think Nino's that good. Even with Geitz opportunity cost, and give it to him. Same thing for Louise. She joins late, a little bit earlier than but even beyond that, bows might not be a good weapon type due to the no one range, but I mean that's still something. She joins on a chapter which has like Wyvern Riders. She take down a few of those. Ninian or Hawkeye. Hawkeye is very good, high HP, high strength, crit chance, 1-2 range, but just being able to refresh for any unit. Flora or Hawkeye. She just joined earlier, has the flying utility, but Hawkeye thinks is so good when you get him, so good at combat. I'm gonna give it to Hawkeye. Flora or Heath. Neither. I've never used either of these. I'm about to train up Heath. Feel it'd be better with his hard mode bonuses. But I'm not sure. I might be overstaying hard mode bonuses. Like I said, I haven't played on Hector hard mode yet, and I've just used Farina instead. Not saying I couldn't use both. Flora does join earlier. I think she's better overall. Legault or Heath. I think fertility is nice, but I'm gonna give it to Heath. Isadora, solid weapon ranks, good class, contributes just fine. Isadora. Oswin or Priscilla, mounted healer, very nice, very much long. I guess in the short run, Oswin might be more useful, but over the course of the game, I think Priscilla has much more long-term use, and for that reason, I give it to her. Oswin or Canas. Oswin's good, but Canas, when you get him, I said the same thing for Priscilla. I think he could contribute more over the course of the game. Same for Raven. Nils or Lowen, dancer, very nice. Urk or Lowen, joins earlier, better class. Yeah. Urk or Lucius. I think Lucius has a higher magic growth, but light magic is weaker, or joins like one chapter earlier. Not much difference. I think Urk has better HP growth. He can survive, get a support with Pent. You do that sort of thing, but GBA supports are very slow. Even without that, I think I'll still give it to Urk. Matthew or Lucius? I feel like I give it to Lucius. I don't feel like there's that big of a difference between Matthew and Lucius. Thief Tilly, that's something. Wallace, is even worth recruiting, especially playing like Hector's mode. You can just like turn clear that Fog of War map, and yeah, I don't like playing around in Fog of War. So even if you do recruit Wallace, he's so slow, low movement, barely going to be able to contribute much of anything. Matthew, at least stealing items from enemies, opening chests, that's useful. And the same thing for Rath, Brave Bow, attack at range for chip, or KO safely, mount. Farina or Serra. Flora, I think, has much more long-term use. Like even if you don't play Lin mode, just as a constant rescue bot. Serra, you're going to ditch her. The moment you get Priscilla. Sane or Serra. Sane. He's good when you join. Stays good. Think like the whole campaign, especially with play Lin mode. Lin or Serra. Healing for a couple of chapters. That's probably more useful than anything Lin will do. Dorcas or Lin. This is a tricky one. Maybe I should give it to Dorcas just because he has a few chapters to contribute while you have a limited party, and also can attack at 2 range with like the hand axe. But I bet there's more merit to training Lin, because if you do train Lin, there are a few chapters where she's force deployed, and you won't have to put one of the characters you've been using on the bench. It's like, well, I'm already using Lin anyway. She's trained up. You can try to make him contribute that way. It has the Monicati. That's something. It's they're both not good, but maybe I should give it to Dorcas when I give it to Lin. Marcus, like I said, best unit in the game. Karel, it joins late. comes at the opportunity cost. You don't get Harken instead. And Hector, he's pretty good. He's not like, Sigurd from Genealogy of the Holy War, or like Robin for Awakening, like one of the best units in his game, but I think he's still pretty good. Karel or Eliwood, even with this opportunity cost, I think Karel's better than Eliwood. Eliwood's, I mean, I like using him, all right. I like using my lords, but he's not that good. Bartre or Eliwood. I mean, I put Lynn over Dorcas. I got to put Eliwood over Bartre. They're basically the same. You're playable. You're kind of in between playable and not playable. You are playable. You are playable. You are playable. You are playable. Neither of you are playable. Okay, Pent or Ninian. I said Pent over here, and I said Ninian over here. It's a dancer, very nice. Joins earlier as well. Hawkeye or Pent. Hawkeye does join a little bit earlier than Pent, but I think Pent contributes so much when you do join him that he's the best of like your really good late game pre-promotes. So that would be like Pent, Hawkeye, Jaffar, Vaida, Harken. Give it to him. Oh, I was thinking the other one. Another one. Like I said, they're both very common. Maybe Harken is like marginally better, maybe, but Hawkeye has like a few chapters more to contribute. Fiora or Harken. I don't know. I might be able to answer this question more if I've ever used, Fiora even once, but I'm gonna go with Harken. Harken or no, Jaffar or Fiora though. I'm gonna go with Fiora. She has more chapters to do things. Same for Heath. Jaffar is probably more useful when you have him, but Isadora joins quite a chapter earlier, and she's good class. Can use 1-2 range. Jafar can't without your really expensive like light brand swords and such. Yeah, Legault. They can both open chest. Legault has more time to do it, I guess. Better than Dart though. Vaida's better. Dart. I'm gonna go with Geitz. I mean, they're both similar, but with use axes, I think Geitz is overall better if you do, go to the trouble of getting him. Even factoring in, you have to train up, your lords a lot. So Geitz is better. Yeah, neither of these are that good, but at least has like a few things going for her. Like get that, automatic support with Pent. Can use like the silver bow at base. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to Louise. Dark, and at least do something though. Contribute when he joins those axes. Nino, you can feed her kills, but she's not really doing killing because that's the most convenient thing to do, or efficient way of doing things. It's because you like training up underleveled characters, which is fine, but not the best for like I think the tier list. I'm gonna give it to Dart. Nils or Priscilla. I'm gonna go with the dancer, refresher, very nice. Both very good. Early game, mounted units. Said Lowen, not a big fan, but maybe it's my bias speaking. I'm gonna give it to Priscilla. I will say he's better than Canas though. Joining better, higher movement. Urk joins a little bit earlier than Canas, but I think the difference is negligible. I think Canas' stats are overall better. Memory serves. Urk or Raven. Urk does have, the 1-2 range right away, and he can heal promotion, but I think Urk or Raven is so much better at combat. I'm gonna give it to him. Urk or Oswin. That depends, because not everyone uses Urk. They'll just go for Canas instead, or wait till Pent. I'm not to say you can't use more than one magic user, but if you do go to the trouble of using Urk, not really trouble because he's not that difficult to train. He'll probably contribute more in the long term than Oswin, but if you're saying if you're like many players, like no, just use Canas instead, Pent instead, or not use either of them, or use Lucius. Oswin will still contribute more. Kind of depends on what you value. You can very easily bench Urk, go for someone else. Oswin he's very useful with those first few chapters, but I think Urk has more long-term potential, so I'm going to go with Urk. I guess same for Lucius as well. Seeing it's very similar. This is a tricky one. Matthew contributes in just like select chapters. Like he's not gonna like deploy him all the time. He's just like, oh, when there's stuff to steal, chests, doors to open, and deploy him. Oswin's useful for select few chapters, maybe the first few. I think I'm gonna give it to Oswin though, because I mean you can keep using him like the whole game. He's still very usable. It's just once you get to the point where you have competent units with high movement, you're probably gonna bench him. But yeah, Oswin contribute a lot early game, can contribute more. I will say Matthew's better than Guy, though. The stealing all the useful items he gets. I mean, Guy does have better availability, but his strength leaves a lot to be desired. Its main thing special out, it kind of doubling enemies kind of dissipates over time, and all of units start doubling. Rath use the Brave Boat base as a mount, even with worse availability and using a bow instead of a sword. I think I'm gonna give it to Rath. He's better than Wallace, though. Wallace barely does anything. Rebecca or Wallace. I mean, Rebecca. There's a few chapters. Like I said, you have very few units. You just gotta make the most of what you have. She can chip. She can fight Pegasus Knights. Wallace, by the time you get him, it's like you'll recruit him, and then you're most likely that you're never gonna use him to strip him of his stuff, or if you even bother to recruit him. That guy's early game availability. I think that's something. Farina is very good, but Marcus in the main campaign, Eliwood or Hector mode, is available more. It just has better base stats than the Farina with or without Lin mode. Lin requires much more effort. You could argue if you go through a lot of the trouble to invest into her, she'll be more useful in the late game than Marcus. It's probably true, but just for Marcus's contributions to early game, you gotta give it to him. I'll put her above Hector though. Hector's good, but he doesn't dominate. Same thing, saying higher movement can promote earlier. I will give Hector above Serra though. Serra's basically just a walking vulnerary for a few chapters. If it weren't for the fact that Karel's opportunity cost, I'm not getting Harken, I'd definitely choose him. But the debate on how much does that really hurt him. I'll go and give it to him anyway. Eliwood or Serra, I mean, hey, being useful in a few chapters better than Eliwood, just kind of struggles to really stand out. I'll give it to Serra. Yeah, two bad lords. Of them, I think Eliwood is better just because if you do go through the trouble of promoting them, Eliwood would get a mount, gives them higher movement and 1-2 range, and Lin gets bows just tacked on, which no problem with bows. She goes from not being attacked on enemy phase because they're throwing a javelin, or to not being attacked on enemy phase because they're just stabbing her directly with the javelin. With Eliwood. Same thing compared Lin to Dorcas earlier. And so maybe I should give it to Bartre. He's around a few chapters earlier in the main campaign. 1-2 range, but higher skill, higher speed. I like hitting things, like doubling things. Give it to Lin. Similar to Sane and Kent, it's like there are differences between them. I think it is that Dorcas has higher base speed and Bartre has a better speed growth. I could be reversing that, but honestly, they're both bad. Both early game axe bros, neither good. I would just give it that basically more important than just their base speed or speed growth. It's just the factors. Like, well, on the one hand, you can train up Bartre to get Karla, a really bad unit, but on the other hand, Dorcas is a meme because what happened to Dorcas. But if I had to choose, I'd go with Dorcas because I think he has, jokes aside, for the higher base speed. That's, something. But it's so cinema, I'm just going time. You're playable. Dancer, very nice. Pent's very good. Hawkeye's very good. Ken's very good. Fiora, they're both early game flyers. Fiora doesn't take your money. Yeah. Fiora. Yeah, not Flora. I'm gonna keep doing that. Um, yeah, I think you joined earlier. Being able to fly is nice. To Farina. Um, okay unit for multiple chapters versus really good for one. Give it to the okay one for the ability. Same thing, thief utility. You can argue, well, yeah, Matthew instead, but yeah, Matthew could be dead. Also, there are situations where it could bring two thieves, extra vision, fog of war, or something. It's close. I'm gonna give it to Jaffar though, but it's just enough. It's like, yeah, I did say I could try Jaffar and Vaida comparable, but I think it does contribute a lot to that one map better than just like there was a fair amount in a few chapters, which was a lot in one, but Vaida was a little bit better, a little bit more to give to her, but I think Athos contributes enough in that one battle he's in. I'll put him over Renault though. Geitz, even with the opportunity cost, still thinks contributes more than Nod. Same thing for Louise. She'll contribute more, probably in a one join chapter than Nod to be able for like 2 or 3 chapters. Very mediocre unit, probably not going to use versus, hey, it's an okay healer. Probably when you take it into endgame, you're just going to use, the Priscilla or Serra just because you have attachment to that character. But I'm trying not to just go by like personal preferences characters, what's like more efficient. I think Not's a little bit better, I guess. You're better than Karla. Oof. I mean, Nino doesn't come with a huge opportunity cost. Having to train at Bartre and joins earlier and can be easier made to something good. Mage is a good class. Attacking at 1-2 range, you can attack safely. I think it was Dancer and Marcus. Very good. Both very good, but better availability, and he'll often be the one you're dancing for. And give it to him. Oof. This is close. I think if you're taking Limb Mode to Factoration, I think Farina will contribute more. Just better at, even just, beyond rescue job, better at combat. Without Limb Mode, I'm almost certainly give it to Nils and Ninian, but with Limbo, I think it's just enough to give it to Farina. Yeah, even with Limbo, though, I still think dancing is more, even with like less availability, I still think dancing is better. Now I give it to the Christmas Cavaliers. Better than Hector, though. Higher movement. Healing's very nice. Better movement. Can promote earlier, get those stat bonuses. Heal. They both have 1-2 range, both good at combat, but give it to Canas. Same thing, Braven, I think, is a little better in combat. Can promote earlier. Yeah, sure, why not? Give it to Urk. Can heal, promote earlier. Lucius, I guess. Both very comparable units. Both good, strength and defense. Hector is going to contribute more in the long run, and that's in part because, he's force deployed in Hector mode, but even beyond that, there's more merit to raising them. For Oswin, contributes more in the early game. I think I'm going to marginally give it to Hector, but it's very close. We'll say it's probably better than Karel, though. Yeah, Matthew's probably better than Karel, the utility. Well, I think Rath joins earlier, and he got a mount. Doesn't come at an opportunity cost. But, yeah, Karel's probably stronger overall than Guy with his less availability. Probably think he contribute more than Guy. I mean, healing for a few chapters, that's nice. I mean, fine for 2 chapters, nice. I think Serra has more long-term potential than Guy. Neither one of them are that good. It might be a little surprising. I think I'm going to marginally give it to Eliwood just because I think there is some merit to training him up. he's forced deployed a few chapters in Hector mode, or in Eliwood he's like always forced deployed. He gets promoted. He'll approach competence if you bother to get him promoted. Versus Guy's just always gonna kind of struggle. Even like my first playthrough was Eliwood normal mode. Obviously, I always go for the Merlinus class, and just mid late game, Guy was like struggling just to do anything of value. I'm not gonna give it to Galo here though, just because Eliwood has slightly more availability past Lin mode, and that's something when he's doubling, with killing edge. That's something. Give it to Lin though. She doesn't have the arch problems. I mean, yeah, she does get bows if you bother to promote her, but swords are marginally better than bows. 1-2 range versus just 2 range. Yeah, I'll give it to Bartre. Could say I think on Hector hard mode, but I haven't played yet. There are these Paces Knights. Will has trouble again. They have javelins, so you put them just barely in the range, and Will can fight there, which is arguably more useful than anything Rebecca could do. But I haven't played Hector hard mode yet. She's available for a few more chapters, so I'm gonna give it to her. More availability, but you're not going to probably use him beyond just his joining chapter in like Eliwood or Hector mode. But even then, he's automatically recruited. He can fight a few enemies versus Wallace. Brian just like 2-turn that Fog of War match to skip it. And if you do recruit him, he's barely going to contribute anything. Give it to Will. Playable. They're both very good, but Marcus is the best character in the game. Same thing when I did Farina versus Nils, which, speaking of, I think there might technically be some differences between them. Actually, I don't think. I think everything carries over. Gross, bases, inventory. Yeah, the different characters, but, unit-wise, they're the same. I like Pent more, just because Pent is awesome. It was a very good first impression. When you've got this desert maps, and all got Pred's NPCs, probably really squishy, probably going to suicide himself, and he just kills everything. But personal preferences aside, I think saying higher availability mount. Probably by the time you do get both of them, Sane will probably surpass, even if you're like training up Sane and Kent. But just for his early game contributions for having a mount, and give to Sane. Same thing for Priscilla, early game mount healer. It might just be my bias speaking. Honestly, I don't like Lowen's character. I don't particularly. I think he's good. Pent's probably my favorite character in this game. Might be my bias speaking, but I'm gonna give it to Pent anyway. We'll put Lowen above Harken though. Yeah, same thing I said earlier, like Pent versus saying Hawkeye is probably more useful when you have him compared to like even if it trained up Lowen, but much more availability plus higher movement. Go there. Better availability, just overall stronger. Yeah, I'm gonna barely give it to Hawkeye. But the availability gets even further here. I'm gonna give it to Canas. Same thing for Raven, very good. Not as good as Harken. I mean, you probably unless you like train him up a lot, get very RNG blessed. But early game availability is enough to give him the edge. Same thing for Urk. Yeah, he's fine at combat. Has contributed for many more chapters than Harken. I guess Lucius too. Tricky one. Hector has like the whole game to contribute, whereas Harken joins near the end. But Harken is very good when you have him. I think we give it to Hector. Yeah, Oswin and Hector are very close. I bet Hector, but I'm gonna put Oswin too. Matthew, very good availability. Contributes for a few chapters just because when he joins, there's only a few chapters left. Matthew just joins in a few select chapters, but I'll give it Harken. Matthew or Fiora? I guess Fiora. Heath and Fiora. Hmm. I'll put him above Heath though, just because there's an availability gap between Heath and Fiora. It's enough, for a few characters being between them. Watch like 20 characters gonna be between. Like, well, that doesn't seem quite right. But that's the thing. Sometimes with these lists, it's like you think there'll only be like 2 or 3 characters between X and Y, and there's like 15, and you're like, okay, I might have goofed up somewhere on the list. You guys both joined the same chapter. Uh, Rath is probably better short term. He doesn't require as much as investment. Just give him the brave bow mount. He requires a lot of training up, but probably there's more payoff if you do bother to train up Heath. Same thing, I guess, for Farina. She joins, I think, a little bit later, but flying is a good class. Can promote, at base. Yeah, Isadora can use javelin. She has 1-2 range. I think she has decent weapon ranks. Can give it to Isadora. Thief utility is nice. Good to have. Yeah, I think I'll go with Jaffar. Yeah, Rath is available early, but Jaffar is very good at combat and has thief utility going for him. I want to give it to Athos though. Yeah, why not? Because I don't think I barely used Rath, but Athos is very useful in that when you do have him. Same thing, Vaida is useful when you have her. I think I will give it to. I would give it to Geitz, but that opportunity cost to train lore, I'll give it to Rath. Okay, both the 2 characters bad opportunity cost. This one, it's very difficult to get that character, but he's better than the other one, Wallace. This one is just fairly easy to get, but not as good as Harken. Even though opportunity cost is definitely, I think, Geitz. With that, it's just going through all the trouble training up the 3 lords, especially Eliwood and Lynn, versus, I missed down Harken. I guess give it to Karel. Healing for a few chapters, nice. Potential long-term availability. Yeah, we have to train this guy up a lot to get this guy. But even if you do that, Geitz probably still outperform him, so give it to Geitz. Can attack safely at range, versus you have to get up personal support with Pent. I know Eliwood has a lot more availability, but I think I'm still should give it to Louise. Still give it to well, no, that's a much more availability. Can do something. It'll probably, I don't know. I feel like Eliwood can contribute more, like the 20 or so chapters before you ever get Renault. Give it to Eliwood though. He relatable for a few chapters early on, useful for last 2 or 3 chapters. At that point though, you got plenty of options. Gee comes, you don't have any options. Probably more, even though just healing, in 2 or 3 chapters, probably more useful than anything Lynn will do though. Darth's fairly mediocre. I feel like he has more potential than Lynn though. Yeah, contribute more than Nino. Also contribute more than Nino. Early game utility. Somewhat early game utility. Both these units, not that great. Honestly, I feel like Nino can contribute more in Battle for Dawn, just chip damage, doing something than Wallace will do. I'll give it to her. Wallace at least doesn't come with a huge opportunity cost of Karla. Honestly, though, without that huge opportunity cost, it's both pretty bad. Might just give it to Karla, but give it to Wallace barely. Karla's more playable than Merlinus. Merlinus is more playable than those. Neither of you are playable. That's it. We kind of complete. All right, let's see the list. More Marcus, that's to be expected, and Farina, Nils. Beyond that, it doesn't bother giving pictures. So taken from the. Oh, it's not letting me. Had some trouble with the list here. Basically, I'll just read from the bottom. We got all these ties 45 just from non-playable characters. Merlinus is 44. And 43 is Karla, Wallace, Nino, Will, Rebecca, Dorcas, Bartre. Bartre and Dorcas tie 37. Lynn is 36. Dart is 35. Renault is 34. And you can see on the screen here, Guy is 33. And we got Eliwood, Louise, Geitz, Serra, Karel, Rath, Vaida, Athos, Jaffar, Legault, Isadora, Farina, Heath, Matthew, or Harken, Oswin, Hector 15, Lucius, Raven, Canas, Hawkeye, Lowen, Pent. Can't say. Alright. Pretty good. So, alright. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know in the comments which character's overrated, which are underrated. I'm not the most skilled at Fire Emblem, so any feedback's appreciated, especially in something like this where I wasn't talking about a character exclusively. You can look back at some of these lists and be like, oh, really put this character too high, this other character too low. But yeah, any feedback's appreciated. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.